The Reaper Leviathan, the source of many amusing Subnautica moments.
Life form readings in this region are sparse.
What is that?
Fortunately for us, this hellspawn doesn't exist on our planet. It doesn't lack terrifying animals which may have inspired it. Today, we'll look at one such animal, believed in some cultures to be an omen of death and destruction. The third longest fish in the world, this is the Oarfish, the ocean's real-life, living Leviathan. Before we begin, I need to make something clear. Oarfish are not well understood, partly due to their deep-sea habitats and how rare it is to see one. So keep in mind that a lot of information about them is speculative at best. Anyway, let's dive in. There are 3 types of oarfish: the steamer fish, Russell's oarfish, and the giant oarfish. There's little difference between them aside from size and the appearance of their scales, although the steamer fish does have the unique ability to produce an electric shock, which has not been observed in the other species. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to lump them all together because it lets us talk about all 3 at the same time. Oarfish are born from eggs, which the female lays near the ocean floor, with the male releasing his sperm at around the same time, fertilising the eggs. It's thought to take roughly 3 weeks for them to hatch. In the meantime, the eggs float a bit closer to the surface, although they will still be in near total darkness. When they hatch, oarfish larvae will look a bit like the miniature versions of the adults, but they will be white, and they're born into a world of darkness, as oarfish can live as deep as 3,000 feet, which, for you to visualise, is deeper than the Burj Khalifa is tall. This partially goes to explaining why we know so little about them, as every time we send someone down there to take a look, unless they're Aquaman, they're limited in the time frame they have to study these animals. Once hatched, the larvae will start to feed on zooplankton, which are basically tiny animals found floating in the ocean. We don't know the exact odds of survival for an oarfish, but it's fair to presume they're not great, based on the sheer volume of eggs a single oarfish pair can produce in one mating season. We would often looking like a plane dropping a load of water on a fire. Oarfish have very limited jaw movement, which means their diet of plankton doesn't really change as they grow. Another thing that they're known to consume is marine debris. This is organic material falling from dead animals above, which to us looks very similar to a weird oceanic snow. This explains why oarfish are often seen hovering vertically, mouths open, facing upwards. It's because they're feeding. That's basically the majority of an oarfish's life, either hovering in place or moving forward like a basking shark. Which brings us nicely to their method of propulsion. Looking at their body shape, you'd assume they move like snakes, from side to side. But no, this is an oarfish, and they don't follow rules for some reason. Instead, they use their long dorsal fins along their back, sometimes numbering up to 400, creating ripples in the water to propel themselves while keeping their body completely straight. While swimming, they hold their mouths open, vacuuming anything small enough to fit inside. Thankfully, they lack teeth, so anything larger than a microscopic organism is probably safe. As oarfish age, they will grow in size and begin to develop a more noticeable crest, just elongated dorsal fins located near the front of their head. We're not exactly sure why this crest developed, with theories ranging from a communication tool to possibly a defense mechanism. But what we do know is that it's not related to sexual dimorphism, as both males and females have them. On that subject, there's no real way to tell the difference between a male and a female oarfish, and honestly, the average oarfish probably doesn't know either, since the odds of encountering another member of their species are pretty low, with some scientists thinking that certain oarfish will go their entire lives without seeing another oarfish. Another unique thing which adds to the weirdness of the oarfish is that they don't have scales like most fish. Instead, their skin is made of something called guanine, which gives them a shiny silvery appearance, possibly helping them with camouflaging in the ocean. The downside of this, however, is that their skin is extremely fragile, and even if you just touch an oarfish, that could actually break the skin. They also lack a swim bladder, which is what most fish use to control their buoyancy. It was like the air tanks in a submarine. Instead, oarfish rely entirely on their dorsal fin propulsion to stay afloat and control their depth. With all this being said, the lack of a swim bladder, the guanine that their skin is made out of, and the fact that they use their dorsal fins as a method of propulsion, you'd assume that oarfish don't have a skeleton. But you, dear viewer, are wrong. In fact, they have the longest skeleton of any fish on Earth, with the record standing at 26 feet long, which, to help you visualise, is the height of 2 fully grown giraffes stacked on top of each other. Although, some claim to have seen oarfish as long as 56 feet long, which, if that's true, means that oarfish can grow to be the size longer of the titanoboa, the largest snake to ever exist. Oarfish are even capable of self-amputation, likely a defence mechanism in which they'll detach pieces of themselves, sometimes as long as 5 feet. So, why do they need to develop this defence mechanism? And what hunts the oarfish? While it's not fully understood, sharks, large fish, and even sperm whales are thought to prey on them. One method the oarfish may use to avoid predators, aside from sacrificing parts of their body, is to swim backwards. But this is an ordeal in itself. Oarfish, much like a bus, don't corner well, and their turning radius is comparable to a drunk uncle trying to remember how to walk whilst you simultaneously try and usher him out of the door. And because they're so long, by the time they've turned their heads around, the rest of their body still hasn't caught up, which leaves them vulnerable to attacks. This core weakness in the biology of the oarfish is thought to extremely limit their lifespan, with the average lifespan of an oarfish being thought to be 10 years, or some scientists reckon that the maximum age of an oarfish is 25 years. Oarfish are found in the tropical and subtropical oceans, but because they live so deep, it's incredibly rare to spot one. Despite their elusiveness, oarfish have had a big cultural impact. Many believe oarfish are the origin of the sea serpent myth that pop up in folklore around the world. In Japan, they're believed to be harbingers of doom, hence the nickname the doomfish. They're thought to be messages from the god warning of impending natural disasters. This for many was confirmed after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and following tsunami that killed nearly 20,000 people, with many afterwards pointing out that 20 oarfish had washed ashore in the region between 2009 and 2010. A similar thing happened in the Philippines in 2017, when oarfish appeared before a 6.5 magnitude earthquake struck the nation. So, is there actually any correlation? Well, let's be honest, probably not. And a study in 2019 by US scientists found that there was no tangible link between oarfish strandings and natural disasters. Instead, it's believed that events below the ocean force oarfish to rise up the ocean. What this means is that the pressure is lessened, the result of which is that their internal organs begin to expand, disrupting their buoyancy. This isn't also helped by the fact that in their local regions, they don't have to deal with currents, which is something more prevalent the closer to the surface you get. This is also the same principle which explains why the blobfish looks the way it does, although in the oarfish's case, it's not as extreme. So that's why oarfish are often found washing up on shores, which is quite interesting because they won't necessarily float to the surface upon death because they lack the swim bladder. The line stasis to the ocean and then eventually sink to the ocean floor. And even to this day, oarfish continue to wash up on beaches in places like California late last year and the Canary Islands early this year. Another thing about the oarfish which I think is worth pointing out, although this is just speculation on my part, as they may have served as inspiration for the Reaper Leviathan in Subnautica. I mean, just look at them. They're basically the same fish, same coloration, same general body structure. If nothing else, at least these deep-sea creatures can say that they've had a run-in with the legendary Jeremy Wade. On that note, thanks for watching the video. It's a bit of a weird one, and not what I usually do, but I remember watching an episode of the Aquanauts with an oarfish in it, and it always really struck with me. So, if you made it this far, do me a solid one. Hit that like and subscribe button for more content like this. I'd really appreciate it. And drop a comment with the phrase, "That's a long boy," so that I know that you've made it this far. I'll see you in the next one, where we return to my home island to find out where all the large carnivores went. I hope to see you there. In the meantime, remember, eat some healthy food, drink some water, and I'll catch you in the next one.